Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope everything's going well with you at home. Don't forget that if you're in my class, you're welcome to email me on the class email address. It'd be really good to hear how you're getting on, even if it's just to say things are going fine. Coming up the next few chapters of the Parent Agency. So, Chapter 11. Lady Rada Welloff pulled Barry hard towards a particular roulette table, around which were Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy, Heremy, Queremy, Smellemy, See an Enemy, and Dave. "Hello, everyone," she said. "Can I leave Barrington with you?" They all looked up. No one said anything. "Super," said Lady Rada Welloff, and disappeared into the crowd. Barry sat down in between Jeremy and Teremy. There was hardly any room, and they didn't move up much to let him in. "Place your bets, please." Barry looked up. Peevish had appeared, and was now wearing a weird cap with a transparent green peak. With a smooth smile, the butler twisted the roulette wheel and set a little white ball spinning round its edge. Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy, Heremy, Queremy, Smellemy, See an Enemy, and Dave all started frantically placing their chips on the squares laid out on the long green table. Jeremy on red, Teremy on black, Meremy on odd, Heremy on even, Queremy on the first 12, Smellemy on the middle 12, See an Enemy on the last 12, and Dave on a corner of the table that just had a tiny bit of cheese stuck to it. "No bets, your massive importance?" said Peevish. Barry realised he was talking to him. I don't know where to put it." There they are on the roulette table. Peevish leant over and looked Barry closely in the eye. "I think 23 is always a good bet, your bigness." And then he winked. "I don't know," said Barry. "I always like the number 19. Peevish sighed. "No, your great silliness. 23. That's the best bet." "Oh," said Barry. He looked at the ball spinning round the edges of the wheel, like a cyclist going round a velodrome at top speed. It started to fall down the ramp of the wheel, heading towards the numbers. Quickly, he picked up his £1,000,000 chip, and, after a couple of seconds of frantically looking, where was it? Oh yes, there between 22 and 24. He put it down on 23. Peevish, at that point, seemed to nod to himself, and, Barry wasn't sure, but he thought he might just have pressed something under the table. At any rate, the wheel stopped spinning very suddenly, and the little white ball bounced down from the edge, spun a bit on 24, but then settled snugly into 23. "My goodness," said Peevish, "there's a surprise." How much have I won?" said Barry. Peevish sprinkled a series of £1,000,000 chips on the table and pushed them towards him with a little shovel. £36,000,000, your richness." "Oh my God," said Barry. He was about to leap up and stick both hands in the air, like he'd just scored a goal, but then he noticed that all the other children were staring angrily at him. "That's not fair," said Jeremy. "You did it, Peevish," said Queremy. "Then you child always wins," said Meremy. "Wah!" said See an Enemy. This is a lovely piece of cheese," said Dave. Sorry," said Barry, not sure what to do. Peevish had appeared beside him with a small plastic bucket, like you get on a beach. "For your chips, your chipfulness," he said, and ladled them in. "Wah!" continued See an Enemy. "Look, I don't want to upset anyone," said Barry. "Nonsense, Barrington," said Lord Rada Welloff, bursting through the crowd around the table. "Jolly well done. And now, guns." Chapter 12. Barry was very excited on the way to the shooting range. He imagined it would be something like the ones he'd seen in various James Bond films, when James Bond practiced his skills, a long indoor hall with, at the far end, a row of one-dimensional dummies with targets for faces. And, at the other end, would be somewhere you could shoot from, with a selection of handguns. Walther PPK, Colt M1911, and some earmuffs for the noise. He was so excited, in fact, that he said, "Are we nearly there yet?" twice on the way. He had time to say this, as it took a lot longer to get there than Barry had expected. Instead of the shooting range being, for example, In a secret chamber under the house, he and Lord Radawilov and all the other children had got into another stretch limo, this time a stretch Range Rover, and Peevish started driving them out into the countryside. It wasn't all that comfortable a journey. His bucket of chips rattled against his leg all the way. Sea Anemone was still crying, and all the others were looking at Barry as if they'd really prefer it if he wasn't there. But Barry didn't care. He couldn't wait to start aiming at those dummies. Bang! Take that, Goldfinger! Bang! In your face, strange Spanish man with a blonde wig from Sky's Fall. He even started thinking about some of the clever one-liners he might say after shooting them. Suck on that, dummy! Ha-ha, he thought, after he came up with that. By the time they arrived, it was starting to get dark. Peevish got out of the car and went over to the small shed. He walked in, flicked a switch. Lights flooded the area they were standing in, which turned out not to be a long hall with dummies, with target faces at one end, but a long, muddy field. Peevish came out of the shed, holding a bundle of greeny-brown anoraks and flat caps. "Put those on, children," said Lord Radawilov, who, Barry noticed, was already wearing similar gear. The children all did as they were told. Then Peevish returned, pushing a wheelbarrow stacked up with what appeared to be a number of enormously long black trumpets. He started handing them out to the children one by one. "What are these?" said Barry when it was his turn. "Guns, of course," said Lord Radawilov. "This model is our own personal family shotgun, the Radawilov flintlock mechanism blunderbuss. Bessie for short. Goes off with quite a bang, though, so watch out." Peevish handed Barry one of the Bessies. Barry immediately fell over. It was literally the heaviest thing he'd ever held. "Ha ha ha ha," he heard one of the other children. It might have been Jeremy or Teremy, or even Meremy, stay as he struggled to get up. "Stupid Barrington's too weak to hold his own gun." "I'm not. Peevish, can you help me?" "Certainly your weakliness." Slipped. Barry managed, with help from Peevish, to stand back up. He put the gun to one side of him, leant on it, and tried to look relaxed and jaunty. "May I adjust your idiocy?" said Peevish. Barry frowned. Peevish adjusted Barry's flat cap, which had ended up backwards on his head, so that it faced forward again. "Thank you, Peevish," said Barry, wondering whether he should give him a chip from his bucket as a tip. But before he could do so, Lord Radawilov bellowed, "Right! Line up, everyone!" The children, all of whom, apart from Barry, seemed to understand how to carry the Bessies so as not to fall over, lined up. Barry tried to make it look all right and perfectly normal that he was using his gun, basically as a walking stick. "Right, Peevish," shouted Lord Radawilov. "What's the target today?" Peevish went back into the shed and came out again, holding not a dummy, not a cut-out figure of a man with a scar and a monocle who may have been in charge of a criminal organization trying to take over the world, but a big silver platter with big silver dome on it. He walked in front of the line of children and said, "Voila," which Barry thought was French for "here you are," and took a big silver dome off the big silver platter. Underneath was a large grey and white bird with beautiful yellow eyes and a black pointy beak. It looked terrified, shaking with fear. It flapped its wings, trying to fly away, but Barry could see that its legs were held to the silver platter by a series of silver chains. "Perfect. The grouse is so big and flappy, and shootable this time of year, eh, Peevish?" "Whatever you say, sir." "All right, you know the drill." Peevish put the silver dome back on top of the bird and walked about 100 meters away from the line of children. "Hoist!" shouted Lord Radawilov. All the children heaved their Bessies up onto the top of their chests, pointing forward. With a supreme effort, Barry did so too, though he thought his arms were going to break. "Aim!" shouted Lord Radawilov. All the children moved their guns towards Peevish. Barry, every muscle straining, did so too. "Now, remember, first shot goes to the new boy." "What?" said Barry, who had been very much hoping to pretend to shoot when the time came. "Special treat, special privilege." "Dad," said Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy. Oh, you know, all of them. Stop complaining. It was the same for you when you arrived. If he misses, one of you can bag the bird. So, are you ready, young Barrington? Splendid. Let her go, Peevish. With an extra flourish, the butler took off the silver dome again and expertly released the chains. The grouse flapped uncertainly, rising to just above Peevish's head. It looked like it had been held captive so long it didn't understand where it should go. Come on, Barrington, shouted Lord Radawelloff. Go on, you stupid idiot. Shoot, you Burke. What are you doing? Kill it. All this from the other children. Barry didn't know what to do. He really, really, really didn't want to shoot a defenseless bird. So he said, I don't want to. Chapter 13. What's going on, Lord R.W.? Said a shrill voice. It was Lady Radawelloff, who had appeared through the bushes with a number of guests from the casino. Can't make it out, Lady R.W. Barrington doesn't seem to want to take his shot. Doesn't want to? But I thought you said he liked guns. I did, but Barry didn't know what to say. His arms were killing him, and all these people were watching. He could feel the other children smirking at him. Not really a son of mine so far, it seems, said Lord Radawelloff. Okay, Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy, Heremy, Queremy, Smellemy, See an Enemy, and Dave, fill your boots. Barry wasn't sure what that meant. Most of them did have Wellingtons on, but they were full of their feet already. But it soon became clear that what it meant, basically, was shoot the bird, because they all started aiming very, very intently towards it. With every ounce of strength he had left, Barry then did something which, to be honest, he hadn't been expecting to do. He stepped in front of the bird and shouted, Put your guns down! Everyone froze and looked confused. Barry could hear the flapping of the grouse above his head. Pardon, Barrington? Said Lady Radawelloff. I said, put your guns down. Let the bird go. In Barry's mind, this sentence was meant to be accompanied by a smooth, James Bond-like move of the Bessie up to his shoulder, and then an even smoother sweep of it around a semicircle to protect the bird. Unfortunately, it was actually accompanied by him swinging the barrel up to his face, hitting himself on the chin and falling over backwards. In fact, it would be truer to say that he went, I said, put your guns down, let the... There's him, hitting himself with the blunderbuss. The children all looked at each other. Slowly, Barry picked himself up from the ground, using the Bessie less as a gun and more as a crutch. And then Jeremy swung his gun towards Barry and said, Why should we do that? At which point all the other children swung their guns towards Barry as well. Children, no, said Lady Radawelloff. Now, now, said Lord Radawelloff. Oops, said Peevish. But the guns of the other children remained trained on him. Barry felt the sweat breaking out on his forehead. He felt terrified and very, very tired. All at the same time, a combination he hadn't before known was possible. He looked over to the crowd of people watching and suddenly seemed to see two servants, the man and the woman, the ones with familiar voices, who had been standing by when he had arrived. They were looking at him with concern on their faces, their familiar faces. With concern, with hope, and with something else that Barry couldn't quite name. He heard a click. It was Jeremy's, or rather, Jeremy's gun. Barry knew that time was running out. He felt something against his leg. He looked down. It was his bucket of chips, £36 million worth. His legs, at least, had a tiny bit of strength left in them, so he kicked out and up, like Lionel Messi might have done when aiming for a free kick that needed to go up and over the wall, and the bucket rose above them all, turning over and over almost in slow motion, and spilling £36 million of chips into the air. Immediately, Jeremy, Teremy, Meremy, Heremy, Queremy, Smellemy, See an Enemy, and Dave dropped their guns and started rushing all over the field, arms outstretched, trying to catch the falling chips. As did all the guests and all the servants, apart from the oddly familiar two, who seemed to have vanished, and indeed peevish. The grouse, which suddenly seemed to understand what was best for it, opened its wings and flew away, high above the trees. Barry looked round, standing there, looking crestfallen, where Lord and Lady Rada Welloff. Said Lord Rada Welloff. That didn't quite go according to plan, did it? Still, anything else we can do for you, Barrington? Yes, said Barry. I'd like to go back to the parent agency, please. So there we go. That's the end of Monday. Come back tomorrow for the first few chapters of Tuesday. I wonder which family's going to get paired with, what they're going to be like. Don't forget also to keep doing Joe Wick's workouts at 9 o'clock every morning. I did it this morning. It was really, really good, and I recommend it for keeping yourself fit and active, even while we're stuck inside for so long. I hope you have a great day. Bye.